Hello and welcome to the very first video on my rebranded channel, Zeal and Steel. My name is Max, and to kick off this new project, we will be reviewing the Night Bastard medieval sword from Darksword Armory. Let's get into it. This particular sword has been on my wish list for years now, and I finally got my hands on it. Before we get into some of the finer details though, here are some cutting videos for your viewing pleasure. Because let's be honest, we know you want to see that more than anything else. I know I would. Let's roll it. The videos speak for themselves. This thing cuts like a dream. I did some further sharpness tests on printer paper and thicker packaging material, and yeah, I would say this comes sharp enough out of the box to cut, well, boxes and plastic containers like you just saw. However, I do plan on taking this to a bladesmith to get it to a sharpness level that I'm truly happy with. Of course, that is not to downplay the sharpness in which the blade comes. As you can see, I can run my fingers along both edges of the blade with medium pressure put on it and nothing. So I do recommend getting some further sharpening done on the sword, but yes, out of the box, it definitely does the job. What are its stats? The blade length is 32.5 inches. The grip here is 9 inches for a total of 43.5 inches with the pommel included. The weight is just over 3 pounds, which is consistent with what's on their website at 3 pounds 5 ounces. And the distal taper on the sword is quite impressive. It starts at around 6.5 millimeters near the base of the blade and ends at about 3.5 millimeters as the blade profile changes near the tip. The point of balance is listed at around 3.5 inches on their website, but for my sword, I think it's closer to about 4 inches, if not more than 4 inches. And if we do a side-by-side comparison with this sword here and the one on their website, it appears mine has less profile taper and maybe even less distal taper than the original, pushing the point of balance further up the blade. This leads us to the blade geometry, which is the most visually impressive aspect of the sword when it comes to the craftsmanship. The hexagonal or narrow fuller cross section runs about 2/3 of the blade and then culminates to a beautiful diamond cross section here near the tip. And I want to emphasize the beautiful needle-like point on this sword. I mean, that is just so incredibly sharp. This brings us to the handling characteristics of the sword. And when I first picked it up out of the box, I was impressed with how weighty yet nimble it felt, given the balance provided by the pommel, the narrow fuller, which just really trims down the weight beautifully and makes it such a graceful cutter. Remember, while it can be wielded in one hand in certain situations, like on horseback, or you got a shield, or your hand's cut up on some foe over here, it is definitely designed to primarily be wielded with 2 hands. As you saw in a previous clip, it doesn't make it any less awkward to swing with one hand. You're just getting significantly less power. And edge alignment might be more difficult as well. And it's worth noting that edge alignment is made much easier with the 2-part handle geometry on this blade. The top is more rectangular, giving you way more control over edge alignment and making it less vulnerable to shifting around in your hand. The bottom, however, is rounded, making it less for edge alignment and more for giving you that power and leverage needed to make devastating cuts and thrusts. In no sense is this blade a pushover, it truly handles like a dream. Finally, I want to go over some potential downsides of this sword. One thing I did notice is that the pommel is slightly out of alignment with the crossguard, which to normal non-neurospicy folks, you probably wouldn't have noticed that in the first place. And so it doesn't really take away from the overall appeal and aesthetics of the sword, but it is something I noticed when looking down the entirety of the sword. So it's something that kind of bothered me at first, but honestly, that's kind of an obsessive nitpick, so not really even that big of a con. Another potential criticism is that the handle is quite long, and I'm not sure if there's any surviving examples of a Type 16A having this long of a handle. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of lends itself to a great sword rather than a hand and a half sword. It's really nice having that long of a grip, but I would feel like any sort of true historical examples would have a shorter grip, being a hand and a half sword rather than a great sword. Another cool feature here is being able to customize your sword. So I chose the distressed brown grip, which I'm really a fan of. I just love that sort of weathered brown leather aesthetic. And I also went for the generic black leather scabbard, which is really well done. It's beautiful. It actually doesn't shift at all when you have it sheathed and kind of bend over like that. Yeah, you probably won't have an issue with it falling out. So really good job, Darksword Armory. Super happy with this sword, and I look forward to doing business with them again. Definitely go check them out, find what sword resonates with you the most. So thanks for watching, folks. This has been Zeal and Steel, the review of the Night Bastard medieval sword from Darksword Armory. Go check them out.